National disaster officials say a search is underway for 2 people who were reported missing in the capital Roseau and another 3 in the southeastern region of the island. Authorities say about 80% of the island is currently without electricity and the water supply has been cut off. The main airport has also been closed due to flooding. Acting Prime Minister Rayborn Blackmore has asked Dominicans to remain calm and stay indoors. Reports also indicate that in addition to the several people missing, there is widespread damage, with many homes being lost. Parliamentary representative for the Castle Bruce constituency, Johnson Drigo, spoke about actually seeing the dead victims of the storm, saying the Good Hope community has been particularly hard hit.
Presently, the situation is very, very bad. There are 3 bodies at Good Hope at the bus stop that is following assistance by the community to recover these bodies. I suppose we would have to wait until a doctor confirms them dead, but for sure there are 3 bodies at the bus stop in Good Hope and the situation is very bad. 1 lady is missing in the Calais area at Castle Bruce. As you know, the Castle Bruce River flooding can be very, very bad in that area. And apparently, information we have is that 1 lady is missing and has not been recovered so far in the Calais area.
And Tropical Storm Erica is expected to move near Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands during the course of the day and near or just north of the Dominican Republic tomorrow as it heads towards South Florida early next week. News back at home now. Chairman of the Employment Rights Tribunal, Hal Gollop, has responded to critics who suggest that the legislation governing the body is too employee-friendly. The attorney at law believes it's that way for a good reason.
But why shouldn't it be? It is a piece of social legislation. And the aim of any piece of social legislation is to protect the weak from the strong. So that Employment Rights Act sets up a framework for the development of situations which should regulate good employment relations.
Mr. Gollop was speaking during a panel discussion on the topic and evolving industrial relations climate in Barbados, the way forward. This was organized by the James Tudor Institute of Politics held at the DLP's headquarters at George Street. The tribunal chairman also made the point that employers are fairly treated under the legislation as well.
So it makes the employer commit himself to certain standards in order for him to mete out fairness to his employee. But it also does the opposite. It gives the employer the right to deal with an employee who has been unfair in his relationship with his employer. So we have got to look very carefully at the development of that statute.
The British High Commission in Barbados has dispersed its largest number of Chevening scholarships this year. From their High Commissioner to Barbados, Victoria Dean, who says 9 scholarships were given out this year. She was speaking to the media following a presentation with this year's winners at the Commission's Colomar Rock offices.
We've been able to send that many more students. So the year just before I came here as High Commissioner, we sent 2 people. And the numbers have been steadily rising, and as you can see, this year we're sending 9, which is absolutely fantastic news. So I hope it means that the word is getting out there more and more people are applying. We certainly never have trouble finding good candidates. The difficulty that Gilly and the team have is selecting the very best from a very good crop.
And the High Commissioner is urging interested persons to submit their applications now for next year.
The application window is open for next year's batch of scholars, which I know must feel very odd to all of you who haven't yet even got on the plane, that we're already thinking about the next round. So you need to go on the Chevening website. I would advise anybody who's thinking about applying, firstly to do so, exactly as some of the others have said, go for it, try. I would also advise them to do, again, as some of the others have benefited from, to speak to other Chevening scholars. There are lots and lots of them across the Caribbean, and they have formed alumni groups in each country.
And 4 Barbadians are among this year's 9 scholarship winners. They are Carol Ann Blenman, Karan Hannon, Romel Hall, The Barbadians will be pursuing various studies in several areas, including climate change and development, environmental development, and international development film production and law. Other winners include 3 Grenadians, Richie Matlin, Edwin Martin, and Jane Nurs. Vondez Phipps and Tamara Brown are the lone winners from St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, respectively. And some of the scholars present at this morning's presentation ceremony shared their feelings on winning the scholarship and their future plans.
Film production is very, very difficult because you have to get all these different moving pieces to come together to create that product. So that is why I thought it was important to be involved in that.
My role when I return would be, as I said, to contribute to the development of climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies in Barbados and the wider Caribbean.
I know that a lot of people, especially in the Caribbean and Barbados, don't necessarily see how climate change affects them personally or either directly or indirectly, and I wanted to be able to get that knowledge, build capacity in the region, and then bring that back.
Certainly, I'm grateful to be a recipient, and I'm looking forward very much to bringing back my skill set to the Caribbean. And my particular skill set is just expanding justice to human rights for people in the Caribbean.
I feel incredibly privileged to be a Chevening Scholar. I think that it creates an opportunity and a platform to not only pursue advanced legal studies in my case, but to be part of an incredible network.
Meantime, Education Minister Ronald Jones is encouraging the scholars to learn some of the British culture.
So don't just spend your time in your dorms or wherever you're staying, but have an interface with people, have an appreciation of the culture, go and visit where you can find the museums. You can see so much there, and the connection between, in the inverted commas, colonies of the period of that time and what is happening now, and the new relationships between these Caribbean islands and Britain.
Well, to breathe new life into the city, you have to build more high-rise housing solutions. That's the view of former Chief Town Planner Leonard St. Hill. He was delivering a lecture titled Building New Towns to Stimulate Economic Activity at the Whole Town Methodist Church.
If you want life in a town, you build houses for people to live in. And then the other thing about our housing is that because we have limited land space, we have to build at higher densities. Now, higher densities do not necessarily mean skyscrapers. It means building so that more people can live on smaller areas of land.
And for people living on the West Coast, Mr. St. Hill says, don't be in a hurry to sell your land and then complain about it after. The former Chief Town Planner says there's always room for negotiation.
You could have negotiated with the developer, the hotelier, and said, well, look, I will give you my land. Half its value I want in shares in your business. The other half I will take in cash to relocate. You then become a shareholder in the tourism business, and you relocate it to your advantage.
Lawmen are hunting down the men who held up the Tapas restaurant in Hastings, Christchurch last night. According to police, around 10:15, 2 men entered the establishment, one of them armed with a large knife demanding money. They stole the cash till with an undisclosed sum. A male member of staff was injured during the robbery. He received a cut to the head. However, the injury was not life-threatening. And there was another robbery, this time at Rubis gas station in Coverley, Christchurch on Tuesday night around 20 minutes to 9. 2 men, one armed with a sword, attempted to rob the service attendant there. They didn't get anything from her, but robbed a male customer of an undisclosed sum of money and some of his possessions. The men escaped, but luckily no one was injured. A probe by the Fair Trading Commission has revealed that several complaints coming from consumers who say they've been taken for a ride by some players in the construction industry. So says FTC Director of Consumer Protection, Judy Maynard.
We had a number of consumers, saying to us that after they've been given the price for a job, that the price has increased. They also said the work was not completed on time, And they found also too that they had workers that they considered to be incompetent. So this, knowing that this could affect consumer welfare and that if you're building especially a residential property, that it could have great effect on your outcome and your, the amount of money you could spend. This is why we decided that we would carry out the research.
Ms. Maynard was speaking to the media at the FTC office yesterday. The consumer director says the FTC had talks with construction officials concerning the issue, and she says that industry players used the opportunity to vent their feelings about some of the challenges they face.
A number of them said that in some circumstances, consumers ask for changes to the work, and then they may forget about it, and this increases the price. And also, too, let's say, for example, you may have issues whereby you have bad weather, and they wanted consumers to be aware that when you have inclement weather, that this can have an effect on the actual completion date. So these were issues that they had as well.
And the FTC is working to resolve the issues between consumers and the construction industry. More news in just a moment, but first we want to get your take on this question. Do you believe more high-rise buildings should be built to breathe new life into Bridgetown? You can text yes or no to short code 8111 and we'll have the results for you at the end of our news.
Dear Clark, I've made a fascinating discovery, the institutional water cooler. Its gravitational pull sucks people from their workstations at the busiest times of day to stand around it and chat about emerging global trends like, will pink be in fashion next season? Meanwhile, the world slows to a stop as it waits in line to be served. I don't see that trend at Globe Finance.
Globe Finance. Think outside the bank.
When it comes to their financial service, slow is out. Swift is in.
Sharing everything is our style. No camera can capture our magic. But when a cold hits, my head is somewhere else. I need that cold out. And life back in.
When a cold keeps you away, reach for Panadol Multi-Symptoms. Clinically proven ingredients for a total response to help clear your physical symptoms.
So I could be fully there for them.
Panadol Multi-Symptoms. When the cold is gone, life takes its place.
Sale, sale, sale at Shoemax. The place to go for ladies' footwear is Shoemax at Dowell's House, Palmetto Street. For work, casual, school, and wide-width shoes for maximum value on lady shoes and selected items for only $29.95. Go to Shoemax, Dowell's Palmetto Street.
Well, as the island faces an upsurge in violent crimes, local lawmen are being praised for their continued efforts to protect and serve. The kudos come from Senator John Watson, who says the Royal Barbados Police Force has a reputation for being impartial and getting the job done. And he was speaking during debate in the Senate to approve $76 million to finance construction on a number of facilities for the police.
We've had examples here. People coming into Barbados and believe that Barbados is some 2x2 country and they could do anything, and we dealt with them. We had a lady who came here with some drugs, very popular film star or model or something like that some years back, and she was dealt with. We had some other people who come here and rob our banks. They were dealt with. So we have created in Barbados a belief that our police force is fair and is competent.
Meantime, an assertion that churches cannot be blamed for the recent spike in gun crimes across the island, and this is the view of Senator Verla de Pisa in her address to the Senate. She says the church cannot force religion down people's throats. Ms. de Pisa also replied to what she's described as offhanded and backhanded comments by some people about the increasing size of some church buildings on the island. Senator de Pisa says established Barbadian churches have always been historically wealthy, but many remain active within the community.
When there is any need in the community, Restoration Ministry steps up. When there had the violence in Britain's Hill, it was Restoration Ministries that organized the vigil to bring the groups together that were warring with each other. How can you complain about a building when the works can be seen?
And the government must do all it can to ensure the island's air and seaports are secure. Senator Reginald Hunt says security at these ports of entries must be beefed up regardless of how some workers may feel. And he was speaking during debate in the Senate yesterday.
Even if it caused the Democratic Labour Party to lose the government, you can't do nothing forever with Jesus. They must implement the necessary measures in this country at either port to protect the interests of the people of this country and its of course, and its inhabitants, which basically is the same. They must do it. We must not allow the tail to wag the dog. The customs, whether seaport or airport, are not a law unto themselves.
One local activist is starting his own twist to the African-American Black Lives Matter slogan. He is founder of the climate pain movement, David Comishong. He blames the recent surge in violent crime to attitudes of greed coming from all spheres of society. Mr. Comishong says that many young people are chasing money at all costs to keep up with the changing ideologies of those often held in high esteem.
To reflect on the meaning of that slogan, Black Lives Matter, Bajan Lives Matter, and to ask ourselves whether we are not doing things that are contributing to a national climate that devalues life, that sends a message to our people that life is cheap.
And still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across our region. But first, a reminder that we want to hear from you on this question. Do you believe more high-rise buildings should be built to breathe new life into Bridgetown? Text